Give us a space kind of countdown.
You have the comp. All systems go, all systems green. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5. Telemetry is good. 4, 3, 2. We have ignition. 1, 0. We have liftoff. We have liftoff. Why do you like that?
I don't know. I just love the way you do it.
Remember when people used to want to have sex on aeroplanes?
Yeah. Well, I never.
The Mile High Club.
I don't want to talk about that aspect because it's vulgar.
Yeah,
Let's. And also something else happened which was better. Did I tell you about the time? Did I tell you about the time we was in the hurricane?
What happened, guy, on the aeroplane?
This is quite good aeroplane. We were in a hurricane.
Happened?
Just listen, and I'm
No,
going
I
to tell
want
you.
to know about the other thing that you won't talk about. What? Guy?
I'd like to say there's nothing to tell. I'm not talking about that. There's nothing to talk about.
Guy, what's going on?
This is what we're talking about.
This is weird.
I'm waiting, Paul.
Guy, what is it? Have I touched a little bit of a nerve here?
Yes, I'm trying to tell you the story. If you just be quiet.
All right, okay.
There had been a hurricane, a really bad hurricane.
Setting the scene now.
And I was caught in it. And I was in Jamaica. There we go. And it was a really serious hurricane.
Did you get sucked off into it?
And it was a ripper. It was a ripper. It just destroyed.
Did it rip a hole in you?
It just destroyed all of the vegetation and nearly all of the houses.
Were your clothes blown off?
Including the house that I was renting. And we got to. It was really hard to get to the airport. They had to have a guy basically on the front of the car with a chainsaw, just cutting down because there's so many trees that got across the. And there were no ambulance getting through, no doctors.
But planes were taking off.
No, they weren't. And when we came down to see the airport, because you go down into it and Montego Bay, it's at the bottom of the hill. All the planes were on their backs, like insects.
Wow.
All been shoved up.
Well, they fly pretty good, don't they? So.
Yeah, exactly. And a bit of wind. That's what they're designed to do. Yeah. And so there were no airplanes there that worked. And the BA had in those days. I bet they don't now with cost cutting. Had a plane ready to go into a disaster zone, and they flew in the 747, and off came the whole check-in procedure. They had everything. So if the whole airport had been wiped out, they could still load a plane and do it all. And out they came. And it was very difficult getting to the airport, but we had to get out of there. And we fought through it, and there were people at the airport. There's like a massive crowd. There was no phones, no electricity. Everybody screaming, babies, people with bandages all over them. It was really hectic. And people fought, a few harassed officials and everyone losing their temper. And there was no water, there was no lavatories. It was dreadful. It was great. I really enjoyed it, but it was but I could see why people would.
Post-Brexit England.
And anyway, when we got
Bring it on.
When we got onto the plane,
yeah,
I had business class ticket, and they allocated you a business class seat. If you had a business class ticket, there was no seats, but if you had a ticket, they said, of course you can come. We'll take everyone who wants to come back can come on the plane. Have you got a ticket? Doesn't matter what the date is. Have you got a ticket? So show them the ticket. They said, great. In you go into business class. So we were in the plane, and people were being kind of loaded into the plane, and it soon worked out that the only spare seats were the ones in business class. There were about 5 or 6 spare seats in business class, and the rest was crammed full of desperate people. And there were still loads of people in the terminus, but of course they had ordinary tickets. So the BA people said, look, they're going to be coming into this class, so that's absolutely fine. And 2 English people stood up and said, the thing is that we've paid business class, and we don't really think that it's fair that these people should have seats. It doesn't seem to us natural justice.
Oh my God.
And they were like really huffy and pissed off with them. These totally innocent people just trying to get home after having a hotel flattened. I remember that. I think that's so English. Yeah. They'd got, even though they had their seats in club class, they didn't want someone in there who hadn't paid the right amount. Yeah, who weren't. God. It really hurt them. That was going to 8 hours of pain.
Did you look daggers at them, guys?
No, I was amazed. I loved it. I was just like lapping it up. the situation.
You love things like that.
Yeah,
don't you?
I do. I love things like that.
You love seeing the dirty underskirt of humanity.
Do you think I'm arrogant?
Do I think you're arrogant?
It's a bit on my mind, this.
I could do you. You could answer a few questions, and I could determine how arrogant you are.
Okay, I'll answer.
Are you A? All right, Guy. Question 1: Are you A, great, B, all right, or C, a fucking genius?
B, all right.
You didn't. That's a lie. You never. You answered too quickly.
Okay. No, because I know myself, but I will say.
Are you A, great, B, all right, or C, a fucking genius?
I'm B, all right.
Answer the question. Honestly, Guy.
What a weird lawyer.
All right. Question. I'm gonna.
No. In fact, my son-in-law knows. He sometimes he's sitting in the kitchen doing his work, and my study door flies open. This is true, Paul.
Yeah.
And I swagger out of my study door, going, "Son, you have as a father a genius. I am a genius. I have written a sentence." No, listen to the story. I am a genius.
Yes.
He is in the house at the moment, your genius father. Then I'll go back in he told me the story. Then about an hour later, the door would open really slowly, and I would walk out going, "I'm such a fucking fuck-up idiot. I can't do anything. All is lost, James. I'm so deluded. It's pathetic. I can't do it for toffee." And he goes, basically, I don't. With the door opens, when I find out which one of you is going to walk out.
Which one of you? Yeah.
But
So it's all right for both to exist, isn't it? So I think, in other words, it's the Jimmy Savile principle.
What?
Jimmy Savile had this principle, which not many people know about, and the reason
not known as a man of principles. That must be.
he had a principle. But what he did was, Jimmy, the way he looked at life, and I know this because I read this quite exhaustive biography of a few weeks ago.
Oh yes.
And the way he did it was, he had a balance, an imaginary balance in his mind, like a scale, a set of scales, and he was allowed to do bad things as long as he did enough good things to counterbalance it.
Like Catholics.
Yeah, well, he was a Catholic.
Right. Makes sense.
So he was just doing things the way that God intended him to, as far as he was concerned.
What were the good things he did? I don't quite
Charity.
Right.
That's why he did all that charity work.
I thought it was to get to his hands on vulnerable.
Well, that was another side effect of it, wasn't it? So the better he was, the worse he could be. Yeah. The more bad he could be. And so it was a self-perpetuating system in which he would be tempted because of the nature of his good works, and then he would avail himself of the temptation, and then he would do more good works in order to offset the evil that he'd committed. And so it went. So it's a tried and trusted method, is what I'm saying to you.
No, I don't think that's quite my method. I would like to disassociate myself from the Jimmy Savile principle, as you called it.
The Savile principle. So are you not just doing that, though, really?
No, I'm not. Leave me alone. It's horrible. It's horrible. But you touched on something else that was actually quite interesting.
For a change. But what was it that I touched upon then?
I can't remember what it was now. It's gone. Oh, yeah, the book. What was Jimmy Savile's autobiography called?
It was variously called, because he changed the name of it a few times, Love is an Uphill Thing.
Fucking hell. Talk about hiding in plain sight.
And Now Then. I think it was called Now Then. But I read Love is an Uphill Thing. It's a damning indictment of him, and I mean, how no one could have known. It's ridiculous, really. Have you noticed how they've taken the Louis Theroux episode off? Have I talked about this before?
No, do.
Well, like Louis Theroux interviewed him a few years ago.
What do you think of Louis Theroux?
I went out with him one night, and I found him to be quite... He's just like that, exactly like he is on the telly.
So very retained and actually giving very little away.
Yeah, and always questioning and always trying to find things out. So I turned the tables on him a bit and I started talking about his father. I said, "Have you got a problem with your father, Louis?" He went, "What? My father's got nothing to do with this." I said, but he was a journalist too, wasn't he? He was a writer. And I basically just went for him a little bit, and then he started laughing because he realised what I was doing was what he was doing to me. Mm-hmm. But he does it to everybody, I think. It's just the way he is. I think he's toned it down quite a lot, though. I think the Jimmy Savile thing must have given him pause.
Why? What happened on that?
Well, he did this interview with him,
He went to see him, and I remember that night. It was a long time ago, in 1999, I think. We were at the Brit Awards, and I remember saying to him, "Jimmy Savile's a wrong 'un," because I'm from Leeds, and I remember having quite a long conversation. He's going, "He fascinates me," and it was shortly after that he did the interview with him. So I think it must have been on his mind because he asked me if I knew Jimmy Savile, and I told him, "Yeah, he's a total wrong 'un," and everybody in Leeds knows it, and probably in the wider world. I said he's almost certainly a paedophile, and he has a reputation for being a necrophiliac. And he was like, "You're fucking joking." I was like, "No, I'm not joking. Everybody in Leeds knows it. My dad told me to stay away from him. You know, one of my friends lost her virginity to him when she was 16. When Jimmy came round to see her mother, who had multiple sclerosis, he went in the back room and banged his daughter, who was 16 years old, and didn't ask to see a passport."
That was your mother?
The mother was in a wheelchair. But he shagged
No, not your mother.
He's not my mother,
Oh, right,
my friend's mother. But he shagged her.
What, the one in the wheelchair?
No, the other one guy. The daughter who was looking after her.
Right.
And when I said to her, I said, is that true? Did you lose your virginity to Jimmy Savile? And she went, "Yeah." I said, "Wow, that's a bit weird, isn't it?" She went, "Well, at least he's famous."
She's Instagramming in first class.
Well, this was a long time ago. This was in the 80s. But so I told Louis about all that, and then he went off and did that programme. And basically,
What did he?
He started out being a little bit like giving Jimmy the needle, and by the end of it, Jimmy Savile had won him over completely. And at one point, he barefaced asked him straight out if he was a paedophile, and Jimmy Savile said, "Of course I'm not a fucking paedophile. It's ridiculous." And Louis believed him, and then they became friends for ages after that. But basically, Savile groomed him and set him up, and then when Louis met Jimmy was on there for ages, and now they've taken that down, so you can see the entire collection of Louis Theroux's programmes, except that one which they've taken down, and now they've put up kind of a sequel that he made to it, which is sort of an apology for it, where he says, "Well, it wasn't my fault because he pulled the wool over everybody's eyes," but you can't actually see the original programme that he's talking about.
So BBC, that, isn't it?
Really BBC.
It's so BBC. They have such a
Revisionists.
weakness for that. Yeah, they have such a weakness for that.
It's horrible.
Yeah, and they always have to sort of be right, and they can never say, or you have to drag it out of them that they made a mistake. Even the Cliff Richard coverage, which I'm sure you'll probably have quite strong views about, but...
No.
Do you mean when they sent the chopper over his house when the police were searching it?
I did think it was an invasion of privacy. The guy hasn't been convicted of anything. Interestingly, like for instance, one of the things that's really struck me about the BBC...
But they didn't come out and say, "Look, we were totally spooked by Savile."
No, they didn't.
They should have said. They should have said something. Say, "Here's the situation. We were totally spooked by
we
Savile.
missed the-
We
we missed the
feel
entire
so guilty about it. We completely overreacted here. It's a real mistake, and we need to get ourselves together."
Well,
It's so easy. They could have just come out and said that, but instead of which they just
Which is exactly why Phil Spector got prosecuted.
What for Cliff Richard?
No, in the wake of what's his name?
What's it
O.J.
called?
Simpson.
O.J.
That's exactly what happened. But anyway, back to the BBC. Have you noticed also when they do reruns of Top of the Pops now, when it gets to number one and Gary Glitter's at number one, they don't play it, they just end the programme. No mention of it. It's like they've erased Gary Glitter. And the other thing that happens is when Jimmy Savile's presenting it, they do cuts. They cut Jimmy Savile out of all the footage.
Oh God, there must be a department of removing Jimmy Savile.
Yeah.
What a dirty place to work.
Yeah, and the removal
what a
of
dirty place to work.
the problem removal department.
The problem removal department. Yeah.
The pedo removal department, otherwise known as.
Yeah.
The PRD. They're fucking working overtime.
Yeah, it's a total waste of time. They should just have one person saying, "You know, we fucked up badly, and here's the situation. We're saying sorry about it."
But
you're
if they
welcome.
put Jimmy Savile on there going, now then, oh, number 47 we've got. The fucking... Can you imagine the outcry? The public would go mental. People would be throwing shoes at the television sets.
Well, that's where your man steps forward or your woman steps forward and says, "Yes, but we're not going to pretend that it didn't happen."
Well, you would imagine so.
But then they go, "But he fiddled with my little Jimmy or whatever, and it's not fair that I have to look at his face all the time." So you go, "Well, we do offer other programmes."
Yeah, and Hitler did kill a load of people, and we have him on every other fucking week.
Exactly, yeah.
And what about all these programmes about the Moors murderers?
Yeah,
They're happy to
exactly.
put them fuckers on, aren't they?
Yeah,
If
yeah.
it sells a few fucking seats
Yeah.
in the auditorium.
Yeah.
Do you know what it is, Guy?
What?
It's unjust.
It's not fair.
Do you know what it is, Guy?
It's not fair.
No, do you know what it is?
What?
Hypocrisy.
Right, rank.
Rank hypocrisy.
What's unranked hypocrisy?
It's not even ranked. It's just not ranked.
Ordinary
It's not on the rankings.
You're a bit of a hypocrite, yes, but I'm not ranked.
I'm not a ranked hypocrite. What does it mean, rank? Like oh, right, look, God, that's ranked.
Yeah, rank. I don't know. Rank.
Is it rank hypocrisy or is it rank hypocrisy?
R-A-N-K.
Yeah, it's rank. Not wank.
No, not ranked.
Wanked.
No, rank.
Ranking uptown rank hypocrisy. Ranking. Ranking hypocrisy. No, hear me, no. So, but anyway, so I've got a bit of a bugbear about this.
Oh, hold on.
Also,
Can I talk about Budgie Banton?
who else has been removed from the
PRD?
yeah, by the PRD?
Okay, see if I can get it.
There's a few more.
I suspect the Duke of Windsor was in the Second World War. Was he removed? But presumably there was nothing really. I don't know. Anyway, he was slightly excised from history, wasn't
Well,
he?
they didn't really have tellies then.
No, he didn't have tennis. But
The Nazis had them, but we didn't.
yeah. So Paul removed. Noel Edmonds. No.
No, well, he killed somebody, didn't he? He dangled.
Grounds of taste.
He dangled somebody from a box off a crane.
Yeah,
convinced them to
it
get in it,
was
and
a
then
prank that went wrong. These things happen.
he convinced them to do it.
Oh, for goodness sake.
He did.
Tell me the person. I'm not going to have a
He
silly
talked them into
conversation
it.
about that. It's what they call hearsay in court. It's inadmissible.
All right. I retract that. Please, what's it called? Expunge that from the record.
PRD. We need someone.
We do. We need a PRD.
to
Would
go
have-
through all our stuff. We'd only end up with
There'd
about
be
3
nothing
minutes of it. Stuff we regretted putting out.
Michael Barrymore, has he been expunged by the PRD?
Right, but he has very recently been completely exonerated, hasn't he?
What?
Yeah.
How?
I read that he'd had a big payout for wrongful.
Well, there was a guy
It was like
floating dead in his swimming pool with his
Yeah.
bum hanging out.
and he's not been, and it was nothing to do with
Oh, for God's sake.
all right. But I think he's just won a payout from the police.
That's shocking. He must have a good lawyer.
Mm.
But he has been largely expunged,
Yeah,
hasn't he?
yeah. You don't hear.
He's on the cutting room floor now.
Yeah. I don't expect he's invited very much to do stuff. Yeah, In fact,
He's ITV, isn't
in
he?
fact, I'd love to know what his career it consists of now. I bet it'll be a beautiful,
Supermarkets.
sad, hour
Pantomime with the Crankies.
documentary about Michael Barrymore.
That's a good one if you're listening out there. Just you heard it here
Budgie
first.
Budgie Banton was released from prison quite recently, and he was just sort of arrived back in Jamaica around about the time that I was there. He did a 6-year stretch for cocaine dealing.
Is he the guy who did that song "Boom Bye Bye"?
Exactly. So that's where I'm going with
What
this.
was it?
Boom Bye Bye is kind of a hum of, but it was a song urging people to kill gay men. in
Shoot
Jamaica.
gay men, yeah.
It's called Boom Bye Bye, and I had hardly ever heard it. I'd hardly ever heard the song, but of course it's such a famous song because it stopped him touring America. I think it stopped him getting a visa into America. He must have got a visa. He was coke dealing. He must have got there somehow. I think he stopped him getting a visa into Britain. I think he may have.
Yeah, I think we wouldn't let him in.
Tatchell stopped it. Anyway, so I was coming around the corner to the bar, and I heard the song "Boom Bye Bye," and I heard Budgie Banton screaming it, and I heard the lyrics really for the first time. And people are right; it is a really nasty song, and it definitely is inciting people to violence against gay people. It's a really, really nasty song, and I thought, oh God, he gets released, and they're going to start playing this again. And I came around the corner, and in the bar were like 5 American white guys. And they had dreads, and they were dressed as kind of MC, they were wearing kind of black urban fashion. And they were like Jamaica heads. You see some of them there, coming down to get into the vibes, get into music, take the drugs, hang out with Jamaicans, and kind of, like groupies really, culture groupies.
Right.
And I walked in the bar, and
They sound horrible.
I said to someone, hey, whose music is this? And they went, those guys. And they had plugged their phone into the rig, and they were in fact playing this song. I mean, no one was complaining about it. I was the only one listening to it, going, bloody hell, they're freaking hardcore, these lyrics. But the Jamaicans all carry on as if it's just like they're not even listening to it. I expect they don't care at all. But it was amazing that there was white people playing it, and it was like them showing their showing their kind of hardness, really, showing their moral
Fronting.
fronting. Exactly. I looked at them and I thought,
Dickheads.
You're pathetic coming down to play. You know this song is so freighted with difficulties and crap, and why? What are you doing? And they're all like dancing to it and everything. These are like college kids. They actually look to me like, pretty well brought up children. But
They're probably in the White House in 10 years.
Yeah. It's the first time I've ever heard that song played by white people in a little Buju celebration.
Nasty.
Sorry,
That's all right.
It wasn't so interesting actually.
It's all right. Anyway, I wanted to say something because Guy, a regular listener, any regular listener to this broadcast will know that Guy doesn't much care for any of the books that I've tried to make him read, and he can't be bothered with most of them. In fact, he slags off Philip K. Dick quite regularly and says that he's some kind of navel gazer.
It's okay. I'm on page 10.
And I don't want to talk about that. I want to talk about another book.
We've got from 6 to 10. It's been a 4-week hike.
Guy said
we're well camped on page 10.
He's got the crampons out for the climb
to go on
to
page 11.
To the second chapter.
To get round onto 11. We've lost 3 men through sleeping sickness. I had to cut them loose on the mountain I had to cut the rope, let them drop to bed.
This is a work of genius we're talking
Dying of
about.
boredom.
A Maze of Death, one of Philip K. Dick's greatest novels.
Is that what I'm reading?
I thought you were.
Yeah, Ubitsu I'm reading.
Oh, Ubik.
Ubik, yeah.
Ubik. Yeah. I do like Ubik as well.
Okay, I'm reading another one of Paul's about a guy called Jack Parsons, who's an American scientist who developed the solid fuel rocket, which now, basically is the way people get into the solar system off Earth. Rockets, basically. And the guy's very like Paul. He's quixotic and he just loves explosions, like Paul does. He's got a mad sex life, which you don't have. He didn't really have a mad sex life, did he? Yes, he did. He had a slightly seedy sex life.
He did, yeah, for the time, I think.
Yeah.
Part of that was tied in with the fact that he was involved with the OTO.
Which is a kind of...
who practiced sex magic.
Aleister Crowley's, sort of quasi-religion. There's quite a lot about Aleister Crowley, who sounds despicable. He really sounds absolutely... He's a dirty man. Grimy, filthy old pervert. Who had an amazing facility for really not very good literature. He could just write off reams of it. Kind of Oscar Wilde with no talent. It's not a good look.
So you don't like him then?
Well, I thought there's loads of stuff about Crowley that I didn't know anything about.
Like what?
Well, that he was quite a successful writer, and then he was a really unsuccessful writer, and that he was involved in, and that he advocated wild sexual activity in everyone, and he ended up ill, broke, and a complete con man, just trying to find anyone to give him money, basically, so he can get shag some. Didn't care what it was by the end either. Shag anything that had a pulse. Actually, probably some that didn't.
Yeah.
He was totally out of control.
Jimmy Savile was a bit like Crowley, wasn't he, in a way?
Yeah, he didn't
like
have
a
the
modern day
writing.
Aleister Crowley.
Yeah, he had the lyrics rather than the writing.
Yeah, but he
no,
manipulated.
because Jimmy Savile didn't advocate what he was doing in private, whereas Crowley did, didn't he?
Yeah, he'd learned that much from the master.
Exactly. Don't tell anyone.
Just don't tell them what you're doing.
Yeah.
There's a brilliant, a really good adaptation of it. It's either coming out or it's out on CBS, where his dad was a bit of a wrong one, wasn't he? Jack Parsons' dad. He was a bit. He spent all the money, and he was.
And he was a philanderer, and his wife wouldn't take him back, and he didn't see Jack for basically for most of Jack's life. Jack was searching for a father figure. Do you think you are?
Not yet. Yeah.
Am I your father figure?
He lost his dad. So, but there's this great bit in it where he takes peyote with his. I can't remember, is that character in the book, or did they invent him for the thing? This some guy he runs into, and he's completely mad, and he hangs out with him, and they take drugs together and get drunk.
No, that's
a
not
motorcycle.
I've not got that far in the book yet. He's only just beginning to. He hasn't really been. There's not many stories of drug taking or drinking.
There's only one in the series, but he takes him out to the desert and gives him peyote, and he ends up attacking the other guy. Ends up attacking a big like a cactus and cutting himself to bits, fighting a cactus because he's mad. And Jack Parsons goes off on his own, crashes the car in the middle of the desert, and then he wakes up and he realises he's on the moon, and it's the most extraordinary sequence. It looks just like the moon landings. It's so beautifully done, and he's literally walking on the moon. But there's no the gravity's not different. It's just sort of shambling across the surface of the moon, and his dead father appears to him, and he's saying, "Where have you been?" He goes, "I've been up here waiting for you." He said, "But how did you get here? I was expecting you to come in a rocket." He says, "Oh no, I came by other means." He goes, "Anyway, you're here now. I've got something to show you." And they walk across the surface of the moon, and his dad disappears into this dark tunnel, and he follows him in. And he's going, "Dad, Dad," and he gets to the other side, and there's all these lights, and he can't see, and it's really bright. And then he looks up, and there's this fucking enormous rocket on the moon. It's really extraordinary. It gave me goosebumps, actually. It was so well done. Because it's all about, like you say, it's about this ambition that he has to get off, to do something important. But he sees it, the magic and the rocketry for him, leaving the surly bonds of Earth. Whether it is in your astral body or in a spaceship, to him it's the same problem. He just wants to get off. It's all about untrapping the human race, getting us out of bondage. That's the way he sees it, I think. And it was an extraordinary time to be alive. I had a photograph of Werner von Braun at that time, walking across a field with the state-of-the-art rocket at the time on his shoulder. He's holding it on his shoulder, like a giant bottle rocket. And by the end of his life, he'd put a man on the moon. I mean, that's an extraordinary arc, isn't it, of achievement. So that was the background, I guess, of what he was involved with. Anything seemed possible. And of course, everybody was very hostile to rockets in those days.
Yeah, they couldn't. They thought they were bonkers.
In much the same way as they were to alternative religions and stuff like that. And then there's the whole L. Ron Hubbard angle. L. Ron Hubbard ripped all his money off and ran off with his wife. Fucking mad.
Ripped all whose money off?
Jack Parsons.
Well, L. Ron Hubbard took Jack Parsons' money.
Oh, you haven't got to that bit yet?
No, I haven't, no. Jack Parsons hasn't really got very much money at the moment either.
Well,
he's about to start making some, I guess, by selling stuff to the military.
Yeah. Amazing, really. You see, and at the time, doing things, I think there were some qualms about the military aspect of it, but they saw the threat of the Nazis as being so real and so terrible that I think there was no stigma attached to working for the military in those days. It was very much seen as a matter of honour, because as far as everybody was concerned, we were facing the ultimate evil, And it's something that stands to this day, really, to an extent.
The penultimate one. What was one after them?
What is the ultimate evil?
Well, I'm not sure. We're about to find out.
Something wicked this way comes.
It's so over-researched, the book. So not over-researched, it's so overwritten.
Yeah.
In that you can see that he's researched. He's got lots of old newspapers out to look for interesting background. And instead of just one little bit, little tiny paintbrush, one little stroke, just to give the reader some context, it's like he gives 9 things that happened on that day, and you can just tell he's reading out of a newspaper, and you just go, "Stop it!
We're not interested
Stop
in it."
telling us, about this, that, about the weather, about some, he overwrites it so badly. If someone had just gone in with a knife and taken a third out, it would be more readable. But it's still good fun, and the character's so like Paul, and he's exciting and excitable like Paul.
I can't see how he's like me.
You like explosions and kind of.
I like all that. I've grown out of all that quite a lot. But
guns, he really liked guns.
He does love
Paul
guns.
likes a gun.
Yeah.
It's not often that you're drunk and you don't bring a gun out.
What do you mean?
I said, when you get drunk, you normally go and get a gun and shove it in my face.
No, I don't.
Go on, guy, just hold it, just hold it. And I say, oh, God, he's such a pervert. Yeah, I know you don't.
Pull the trigger.
I know you're not talking about your gun.
I'm saying
Paul.
pull the trigger. Just pull the trigger, guy.
Yeah, that's what you said last night.
Pull the trigger. Do you want to do it now?
No.
On the pod?
No, because I don't want to have a gun going off.
Shall I shoot you? On the pod, live on the pod. Everybody, I'm going to shoot Guy. It's time to be shot, Guy.
Okay, so
Has anyone ever shot you before?
Surprisingly not.
Oh, shit, hang on.
There's your whiskey.
Hey, okay, so this is it. This is a 9mm Walther.
Bits falling off it. No, no, no. That's horrible. That was horrible. Yeah, I said when we were laughing, I thought there was a bullet in it. A great yellow flash came out the front. He was aiming it right. No! Okay, I'll talk.
I'm putting it away. You'd be much good in the war, wouldn't you?
No, I would not be much good in the war. And
Jesus
I'm proud
Christ.
to say it. I'm a man of peace.
All right, okay, it's all right. Safety catch on. All right, I'm putting it away.